What really happened on that lonely mountain after Moses died? Why would the devil want his body? And what does this epic, unseen clash between Michael the Archangel and Satan reveal about the nature of good, evil, and divine authority? To understand this cosmic confrontation, we first need to go back to the end of Moses' life. The Book of Deuteronomy gives us a poignant farewell. After leading the Israelites for 40 long years through the wilderness, Moses, at 120 years old, is brought by God to the top of Mount Nebo. From this vantage point, he is shown the entire promised land, the land he had tirelessly journeyed towards, but was forbidden to enter himself because of a single act of disobedience at the waters of Meribah. Imagine the mix of emotions, the fulfillment of seeing his people's destination, yet the personal sorrow of not being able to cross over. Deuteronomy 34 tells us, "And Moses the servant of the Lord died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is." This last part is crucial. No one knows where his grave is. This isn't just a casual detail. It's a deliberate act by God. Why? The most common understanding is that God hid Moses' body to prevent the Israelites from turning his grave into a shrine. They had a history of falling into idolatry, and it's easy to see how the tomb of their great lawgiver and deliverer could become an object of worship, distracting them from the one true God who had actually delivered them. So the stage is set. Moses dies, and God himself buries him in a secret location. For centuries, that's where the story seemed to end. But then, hundreds of years later, Jude, the brother of James, pens his short but fiery letter, and in verse 9, he drops a bombshell. He writes, "But even the Archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" Let's break this down because every word is packed with meaning. First, we have Michael, the Archangel. In Scripture, Michael is portrayed as a warrior angel, a commander of God's heavenly armies. His name itself means, "Who is like God?" A rhetorical question that asserts God's supreme power. He is a figure of immense authority and righteousness, the chief defender of God's people. Then we have his opponent, the devil, Satan, the great accuser, the father of lies, the ultimate adversary of God and humanity. He's not just some minor demon. He is the leader of the fallen angels. And what are they arguing over? The body of Moses. This is where the mystery deepens. The text doesn't explicitly state why the devil wanted it. This has led to a lot of scholarly speculation, and there are a few compelling theories. The first, and most popular, goes back to the reason God hid the body in the first place: idolatry. Satan, the master of temptation, likely wanted to reveal the location of Moses' grave to the Israelites. He knew their weakness. He could have used Moses' physical remains to create a powerful idol, a center for a new false religion, and thereby lead the entire nation astray right at the moment they were to enter the promised land. It would have been a strategic masterstroke, turning their greatest leader into their greatest stumbling block. Another theory suggests that Satan, as the accuser, was trying to claim Moses' body based on a legalistic argument. Moses was a sinner. He had killed an Egyptian. He had disobeyed God at Meribah. Satan might have been arguing that because Moses was a sinner and had committed murder, his body rightfully belonged to him, the prince of this world and the Lord of death. It was a cosmic legal battle, a challenge to God's jurisdiction over one of his own servants. A third, more symbolic interpretation sees this as a prefiguring of Christ's resurrection. By securing Moses' body, Michael was defending God's sovereign power over life and death. Moses would later appear, fully glorified, alongside Elijah at the transfiguration of Jesus. Some scholars believe Satan was trying to prevent this future event, to hold Moses' body captive so he could appear as a witness to Christ's divine glory. Regardless of Satan's motive, the most fascinating part of the story is Michael's response. Here's the commander of angelic armies, an entity of pure power, facing his ultimate nemesis. And what does he do? Does he unleash heavenly fire? Does he engage in a physical brawl? No. Jude tells us he did not himself dare to condemn him for slander. Instead, he says something simple, yet profoundly powerful. The Lord rebuke you. Why would Michael do this? He wasn't afraid of the devil. The archangel wasn't showing weakness. He was demonstrating perfect submission to God's authority. Michael understood that judgment and condemnation belonged to God alone. Even when confronting pure evil, he didn't rely on his own power or his own authority. He deferred to a higher power. He acted as an agent of God, not as an independent authority. His power came from his alignment with God's will. By saying, "The Lord rebuke you," Michael was essentially stepping aside and invoking the ultimate power in the universe. He was calling on God himself to handle the situation, trusting completely in God's judgment and power to be sufficient. This is the main point Jude was trying to make to his audience. He was writing to a church that was being infiltrated by false teachers. These teachers were arrogant. They scoffed at authority, both human and divine, and they claimed to have special knowledge. Jude uses this story of Michael and the devil as the ultimate contrast. If even the mighty Archangel Michael, in the presence of the devil himself, did not presume to pass judgment, but deferred to God, how much more foolish and arrogant are these mere mortals who speak evil of spiritual powers they do and even understand? The lesson is one of humility and trust in God's sovereignty. It teaches that true strength isn't found in our own power, our own anger, or our own pronouncements of judgment, but in our submission to God. Michael's victory wasn't won through a sword fight, but through a declaration of faith in God's authority. He won by yielding. Now, you might be wondering, where did Jude get this story? It's not in the Old Testament. Most scholars believe Jude was quoting from a popular, non-canonical Jewish text from that era called the Assumption of Moses, or the Testament of Moses. While most of this ancient book has been lost to history, early church fathers like Clement of Alexandria and Origen wrote about it, and they specifically mention that it contained the account of Michael's dispute with Satan over Moses' body. So, Jude was referencing a story that his audience would have been familiar with, using it to illustrate a timeless spiritual truth. Its inclusion in the Bible gives it apostolic authority and divine inspiration, preserving this one crucial scene for all time. So what can we take away from this incredible, almost hidden story today? First, it's a powerful reminder of the spiritual battle that rages unseen around us. There are forces at work that are far beyond our comprehension, but it's also a story of immense hope. We are not left to fight these battles alone. God dispatches his most powerful agents, like Michael, to defend his purposes and his people. Second, it's a profound lesson in humility. In a world that often encourages self-assertion, arrogance, and quick judgment, Michael's example is countercultural. He teaches us that real power lies in recognizing our place before God and trusting in his ultimate justice and authority. When we face opposition, accusation, or temptation, our best response isn't always to fight back with our own strength, but to say, in our hearts, "The Lord rebuke you." It's about placing the battle in God's hands. Finally, the story beautifully affirms God's ultimate victory over death and evil. Satan wanted Moses' body, perhaps to defile it, use it for idolatry, or claim ownership of a sinner. But God said no. God had a greater plan for Moses, not just for his body to be protected, but for his spirit to be glorified, as seen at the Transfiguration. God has the final say. Satan may accuse, he may scheme, and he may dispute, but in the end, God's purpose will always prevail. The same God who protected the body of his servant Moses also protects and redeems us. It's a short verse about a hidden event, yet it opens up a universe of meaning about authority, humility, and the unshakable sovereignty of God. The battle for the body of Moses was more than just a fight. It was a declaration that what belongs to God is forever His, and no power in heaven or on earth can ever snatch it away. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into one of the Bible's greatest mysteries. If you found this as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into incredible stories from history and scripture. Let me know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.